Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Marco Nuyen. I'm a trainer at Microsoft. This video is part of a series of videos about the role of a Microsoft cybersecurity architect. In this video, we will discuss the topic of cyber threat with ransomware as an example. Discover how to defend against evolving cyber threats with a focus on ransomware, as we break down key security best practices and show why identity is the new perimeter in this essential guide for cybersecurity architects. The content of this video is mostly aligned with the area of attention that is called Security Best Practices and Priorities. That is for the certification. Now, why is ransomware a priority? There are many threats and the landscape is changing and evolving. But over the last years, a dominant attack pattern has been ransomware. You will be dealing with it at some point and you better be prepared. That is why I've created this video where we will use ransomware as an example of dealing with cyber threats. Now, spoiler alert. In essence, this is business continuity and disaster recovery, BCDR for short, as we've used it in the industry for decades. And consider cyber threats a cause of just another outage, a disaster. And we are prepared for disasters because we have invested in it and we're good at BCDR, right? Okay, so let's focus a bit on ransomware. What is it? Let's start with a question. What is ransomware? Is it malware that encrypts files on a computer and demands payment to decrypt them? Is it a phishing email that tricks users into revealing their password details? Or malware spreads through a network and deletes data on infected machines? Well, out of these, the best answer is A. Malware encrypts the files on a computer and demands a payment to decrypt them. And it has become a very nasty pattern by which a lot of organizations get heavily impacted. And yes, I know the attackers are shifting, where they do not encrypt anymore. They steal your data and threaten to release your data to the public if you don't pay them. Things evolve. Our objective for this video is to discuss cyber threats and specifically ransomware and what we can do to protect our organizations. And more importantly, to be ready when it hits, because it will. And we need to ensure we can survive without too much loss of business. Get ready, but mostly be ready. As I mentioned in the introductions, essentially we need to ensure our business continuity and disaster recovery plans are there and tested. Let's delve into that a bit first. BCDR. I imagine your business might be facing a failure, an outage, a disaster, or being impacted by ransomware. How do we keep things running? It all starts with proactive planning, preparation, and building resilient systems. First, you need to identify risks to your operations like network issues, hardware failures, human error, or even regional outages. Once you know the risk, you classify them. Are they common, something you can handle with high availability, or uncommon where disaster recovery comes in? Next, design strategies to minimize those risks and redundancy and replication, failover, and backups. Don't forget, not all solutions are technical. Process-based controls matter too. Now for disaster recovery, it's your plan for those rare but catastrophic events, natural disasters, critical human errors, or major security incidents like ransomware attacks. These can cause data loss and major outages. Since disasters are rare but severe, your response plan must address two key elements. The Recovery Point Objective, or RPO, which defines how much data loss is acceptable, and Recovery Time Objective, RTO, which sets the maximum acceptable downtime. By planning, you ensure that even in the worst case scenario, your business can recover and continue to serve your customers. Let's look at a major cause of security incidents, ransomware. Dealing with ransomware. Ransomware is a specific kind of malicious software or malware used by cyber criminals to render data systems inaccessible from the purpose of extortion, ransom. In a standard ransomware attack, the cyber criminal achieves unauthorized access to a victim's network, installs the ransomware, usually in locations with sensitive data or business-critical systems, and then executes the program, blocking files, making them inaccessible until the ransom is paid. Usually the ransom demand is for payment in the form of cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin or anonymous cryptocurrencies like Monero. But increasingly, attackers also steal sensitive data before deploying the actual ransomware in what is known as a double extortion ransomware attack. The theft of data compels the victim to engage in negotiations and raises the potential reputational, financial, and legal cost of not paying the ransom, as the attackers will not only leave the victim's data locked, but also leak sensitive information that could include confidential business data or personally identifiable information. And even more recently, ransomware parties have shifted to just exfiltrating and extorting. Technically less complicated for them, which will render them a better return on investment. Ransomware is a growing concern because it can cause significant damage and disruption to individuals and organizations. Ransomware attackers can extort large sums of money from their victims, who may lose access to their essential files and systems. Ransomware can also compromise the security and privacy of sensitive data, such as personal information, financial records, or intellectual property. Moreover, ransomware can have negative impacts on the reputation and credibility of the affected parties, who may lose trust of their customers, partners, and stakeholders. Just open a news site, and likely there will be a mention of an organization that has lost data or is held at ransom. It is a problem, and it's growing and growing and growing. It's like the new normal, but of course it's not normal at all. These are serious consequences, and the impact on society is increasing. And a great page to learn more on the topic are the page on Microsoft Learn that explain what ransomware is and how you can deal with the threat. A short link to the page is displayed here in the presentation. And it's called aka.ms humor, but it's not about being funny, right? It's an abbreviation of human-operated ransomware, and it's nothing to laugh at by itself. So when you look at human-operated ransomware, humor is very profitable, and it's very difficult to capture the attackers. Also with the internet, the number of potential targets is incredible. By now it's so widely spread that it is like a new normal. It is not so much a question if we will be hit, but more when and then how much impact there will be for us. It is a big risk with a high likelihood and potentially high impact. So it needs to be on our list of items to focus on. We need to be ready to deal with ransomware, but we also want to prevent it as much as we can from happening. We need to protect, detect, respond, and potentially recover. Over the years, our incident response teams at Microsoft have been aiding a lot of customers with ransomware situations. That together with the lessons learned have come together in advisories on what to do and how to do it. Protect and recover from ransomware. Let's look at those advisories. High level first. 1, 2, 3. 3 elements to deploy. Or as a Microsoft cybersecurity architect, to verify explicitly. Has your organization ready themselves for these 3 steps? Number 1, recovery. First is to be ready when it happens. Be able to recover what needs to be recovered. Behind a simple step, there are a lot of activities that need to be readied. Backups, restores, systems, peoples, processes. And all of that needs to be tested regularly to see if the results of a recovery process are indeed what they need to be. For me, this is very much something we have in enterprise and architectures already, hopefully. Right? It's the business continuity and disaster recovery, BCDR for short. Ransomware is just another disaster waiting to happen, and we need to be ready for it. That is our segue into the topic of backup later in this video. Number 2. Limit the blast radius. The second element on the slide is something you should connect to Zero Trust immediately. Assume breach, reduce the blast radius. If it happens, we want to limit spread and impact. We need to find a way to be able to bring in layers of isolation, and we need to know what is more and what is less important. Again, there will be a lot of activity behind this. An example could be working with the business to understand the criticality of their workloads, or within a workload, understand what is essential and what is more like a nice to have. Or when it comes to data, we need to know what important data is and what is, less important. So think about how to do data classification, labeling, and handling. We will have another topic in the video series about that, since it's part of the course and the certification. Number 3, the third element, is to make it hard for attackers. Raise your shields, put up your barriers. Not only from a networking perspective, but make it more difficult for attackers to obtain privileges, security privileges. Yes, that will be a specific topic because it is so crucial. And if you're thinking, well, yes, no, well, then just make everyone a global administrator and accept the risk. No, right? We're not going to do that. That's not acceptable, at least not in my book. And as we know from Zero Trust, the principle of least privilege should always apply. So that's where we link back to that content. Attackers cannot steal from you what you do not have. So don't carry around privileges that you don't need. What also makes it harder for attackers if you update. Operating systems, middleware, runtimes, applications, they all need to be managed and maintained and be kept up to date. And not updating is falling behind and offering an attacker a window of opportunity. Think about how you will do your update management and what capabilities you will use for that. A great resource to inspect more closely is the ransomware attack poster that you will find on our Humor advisory pages. It lists the 3 steps with more guidance and hyperlinks to content. More information. The poster is downloadable, and I know quite a couple of organizations that literally print this out and stick it on the wall and go do. It helps to follow the guidance. Pay special attention when you're studying to the hyperlinked content in the poster if you're learning about the topic. It contains information about backup and other capabilities that is crucial to understand. Since the topic is so crucial, I've listed some key takeaways. Backup. Have one. Test it. Be able to restore. And protect the backups. Attackers want to get to those and disrupt them. And be ready for digital wipeout. Make sure your operating procedures can be performed even if many IT systems are crippled. I know of an instance where all the restore procedures were not available because of an attack. What do? Well, don't get caught. Prep for those situations also. And protect privileges. Attackers don't hack, they log in. They borrow accounts and privileges that come with accounts. In almost every single ransomware attack situation, attackers misused high privileges. Get a grip on that. Zero trust privilege. Zero trust least privilege. And validate requests. Zero trust verify explicitly. And be ready to recover. Zero trust assume breach. Make sure you can back into an operational state. So, be ready for the worst case. In the event the attackers are successful, you will need to be able to recover. Need to be ready to respond. Again, classical BCDR. Essentially with ransomware ultimately, we are facing a similar situation as with disasters. Something that impacts our continuity. BCDR, again and again and again. If your organization is planned for that, then you are in a good spot. If you have not yet, then make it a priority. Make sure it gets covered. And remember, it's not about if we get hit, but what do we do when it happens? And BCDR is part of what is needed from a cloud adoption framework perspective also. It is in a management pillar of the cloud adoption framework. So if you're already leveraging the cloud adoption framework, it should be on the radar. But verify explicitly. You should check. Check if it's done, but also check the content there that familiarize yourself with terminology like RTO, RPO, and the technologies that are offered in platforms to help with doing backup and restores. I've included a couple of links you can leverage to get a better understanding of capabilities. A link on backup and a link on disaster recovery, backup and direct. Get a better understanding of the services and technologies that can help you. A couple of examples for the backup services. Services such as Microsoft Azure Backup Server, MAPS, Data Protection Manager, DPM, and Microsoft Azure Recovery Services, MARS, provide some key features for secure backup and restore. Features like preventing, having an additional layer of authentication which is added whenever a critical operation like changing passphrase is performed. And this validation is to ensure that such operations can only be performed by people that have valid Azure credentials. Alerting, it's about knowing things. An email notification can be sent to an administrator whenever a critical operation like deleting a backup is performed. This ensures that the user is notified quickly about such an action. And, of course, recovery. Deleted backup data is retained for an additional 14 days from the date of deletion. This ensures recoverability of the data within a given period. So there's no data loss even if an attack happens. Also, a greater number of minimum recovery points are maintained to guard against corrupt data. Now, if you focus on Mars, the Azure Backup Services use the Microsoft Azure Recovery Service or Mars agents to backup and restore files, folders, and the volume or system state from an on-premises computer to Azure. Mars now provides security features, a passphrase to encrypt before upload and decrypt after download from Azure Backup. The deleted backup data is retained again for an additional 14 days from the date of deletion. Now, and also note that you can enable multi-user authorization, MUA, on your Recovery Services Vault to add another layer of protection for critical operations of disabling security features. That make it hard. And we have the MCSB. Remember the MCSB, the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, which has guidance for us? The Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark has guidance on us based on baselines that are coming from NIST, CIS, and PCI. In the series of videos, we have a video specifically in the MCSB, but I want to remind you here of that relation. In the MCSB, there's a control domain, named BR, Backup and Recovery. And for BR, there's 4 control elements that should be present, and number 1 will be the most important one. But when you look at them, I'm tempted to say that number 1 is completely useless if you don't do number 4. We need to be ready and we need to be able to do something. If you don't test your backup, then what's the purpose of it in the first place? In this video, we cover topics on ransomware and how to ensure readiness that will lead us to backups and restores. There's a lot of guidance available, and if you follow a best practices framework, like the Cloud Adoption Framework, then elements will be covered from there. Or if you use the MCSB to do a check, whatever you choose, make sure your organization is ready to recover. Help them to get ready and stay ready. The links throughout the video that are listed here can help to easily find related content. So use these links for your own learning and your benefit. Now, thank you for watching this video in the series. Hope you go and watch another video. Stay safe.